Morning. Welcome to the TSS. Sunday mornings are our public lecture. And believe it or not, this is already the last Sunday of March. Time is always flying by, which is good because spring is just around the corner. Kind of a cool day here, but warm hearts in this room. Today we continue and we complete the theme of the month for our lectures, which is about spiritual education. What are the things, what are the steps we must do to follow a continuous path of education from a spiritual, not a scientific or other types of perspectives. We have the pleasure of having Teresa provide us the lecture, and her theme, she's going to talk about herself. This says, do I really know myself? So we'll see how much she knows about herself. But before we get going with Teresa's lecture, I would like to ask Danielle to come up to read a passage and to start us off with an initial prayer. Lots of announcements at the end. I hope you enjoy the lecture today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. So ready for a great lecture from Teresa. She chose this message from the book Happy Life, from Divaldo Franco and the Spiritual de Angelis. And it's the chapter 21. The message is, love is the tonic of life. When it is centered on the lower interests of sex and primitive passions, it becomes a prison. No longer the elevated feeling that dignifies as it liberates. Examine your feelings in the affective area and see if they unbalance or calm you. The quality of your feelings will tell you if what you're feeling is love or merely desire. But love without either enslaving the one you are devoted to or without enslaving yourself. And with that message, we now close our eyes and we thank our Master and our Lord Jesus Christ for allowing us the opportunity to learn here one more day. We hope that Teresa can be enlightened by our brothers and sisters from the spiritual world with a message full of peace, full of love, so that when we walk out from here today, we may know a little bit more about ourselves, and we may be able to practice love and charity as you are taught by Jesus. And so be it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Don't worry, as Joe pointed out, the lecture will not be about myself, so you're not going to know much about myself by the end of this lecture. Okay? But that's just a question that probably all should, at least once in a while, ask ourselves. Do I know myself? How many times do we really stop and ask this to ourselves? Right? Probably not that often. Because we think we know ourselves, right? So we don't really need to think about that. We don't need to go any deeper and try, because I already know myself, right? It's so obvious, right? Do we really know ourselves? So I think for us to know ourselves, we need to start with two questions. What am I? And who am I? Are they the same thing? They sound like, but they're not. So when we think about what am I am this body with all its functions and this organic body that has been going through evolution for millions and millions of years. That started there with the microorganisms in the water, and from the water went to the mud, from the mud went to the soil, and it keeps going, and that's how our body got to what it is right now, right? So if you look at pictures of how our bodies were when we were cavemen, was kind of similar but different, right? They had different format shapes in their heads and the size of their brains and even their posture. They were more rough than we are now. So through the millenniums, we became what we are now. Those bodies, the hair, the features that we have, and it took millions and millions of years for us to be here and be what we are, right? The problem is that if we stop right there, and that's probably where the materialistics, the people who are very materialistic will stop, it won't really answer completely who we are. Because we go beyond this body. And even if we don't believe in it so instinctively, we know we are beyond this body, right? And that's what brings us to the next question. Who am I? Because when we have this question, when you go from what am I to who am I, now we transcend our animalistic side. We transcend this material body, and now we connect ourselves with our essence. So now we try to connect with our identity and start to bring our questions. Okay, this identity, what's my place in the world, why I'm here, what's my role here in this divine creation, right? That's come all for these questions of who am I, right? Because it is beyond this body. There is something else. So that's when we transcend our animality and we start to connect to our true essence or to our spirit. So that's when we start to realize that, you know what, I do have a body and that's what I am, but I also have a spirit and that's who I am. Because that's the one that connects me with my characteristics, with my thoughts, that's my personality, my real identity. And the Spiritist is this blessed key that brings us the knowledge to help us to understand who we are and why we are here. So, with this knowledge that the Spirits brought to us through Kardec and so many other books, through Chico Xavier and other mediums, we know now that organically we went through this whole millenniums of evolution, but so we did as a spirit as well. Right? So Spiritism comes and tells us that we are created simple and ignorant. So just like the microorganism, as an organism, we are just a microorganism in there, then evolved, went to the mud. As a spirits, we're the same thing. We are created simple and ignorant, so a hard drive with zero information, and no idea, right? That starts to come in more simple organisms as well, right? And start to evolve. To today be these intelligent beings that we are, right? So there's no jumps in evolution. There's no jumps in evolution in terms of our bodies, and there's no jumps in evolution in terms of our spirit. And we all created equally, simple and ignorant, right? So spirit is being that key that help us to understand our differences, right? That we're not created on this incarnation. That we created probably millions of years ago. And as a spirit, we have been slowly acquiring knowledge and understanding, feelings, sensation, to now become the intelligent beings that we are right now. And in the book, In the Greater World, by Chico Xavier, by the spirit of André Luiz, the benefactor Calderaro actually talks about it. And it's interesting because he's talking about the development or the evolution of the spiritual principle, but the way he explains, he's actually talking about the organic. And you almost think, okay, but he's talking about the spiritual principle or he's talking about the organic principle? And then he almost teaches here that they go hand in hand. So what he says, the spiritual principle has moved forward without stopping. It left the ocean floor, reached the surface of the protective waters, headed for the muddy banks, struggled in the mire, reached solid ground, experienced an abundant number of representative shapes in the forest. So see, He's talking about the spiritual, but he's talking about how organically we also evolve. So they go together. They go hand in hand. And then he says, and after long millennium, during which it learned to procreate, nourish itself, make choices, remember and feel, it gaining intelligence. So the same way that our bodies went through that millennium of evolution, our spirit, using those different kind of bodies, were absorbing knowledge and absorbing sensation, learning how to, feed ourselves, to procreate, to understand why we're here until we became this intelligent being that we are now. So it says it has traveled from simple impulse to responsiveness. So the way that we acted, the way that we made our choices, right? From responsive to sensation, from sensation to instinct, which is how the other animals that we have around us, that's how they live. They're still living by instinct. And then from instinct to reason, right? So now we're beings that we can receive information, rationalize, think about, and decide what I wanted to do with that. I may believe, I may not believe, I may just say, I don't care, but we are able to do it. Some of us we don't use that all the time, but we have the capacity, right? And if you think as thousands and thousands or millions of years ago as a caveman, we probably went just by instinct. I knew I had to feed myself, I had to protect my family, I had to go out hunt, and that's what I was. But I did it all by instinct because my instinct told me that I was hungry, that I need to protect my family, and I did it by instinct. Now we do by rationalizing. Now we can absorb and understand. So it says, through this laborious course, countless millennia have elapsed. So it didn't take a few thousands of years, it took millenniums for us, organically and spiritually, be where we are right now, right? And it says, in all epochs, we lived the lower realms in order to climb to higher ones. So now he's adding a little thing in here. He's not just saying that we just kept millenniums there organically and spiritually absorbing information just for the sake of absorbing information. What he's saying here, there is a path. There is a path that we need to follow. So it may almost giving us now here the why we're here, and why I am the way I am or who I am. Because we're here to evolve. He's saying that, in every single phase that we kept going, we're on this path, on this mission, let's put it this way, where I have to go from the lower realms to the high realms. So basically what he's bringing to us is what we all Spiritists know, is that what we really are, or who we really are is immortal spirits that were created by God, destined to reach moral and intellectual relative perfection. And relative perfection, because 100% perfection, we know it's only God, right? So even pure spirits like Jesus, they have relative perfection compared to God. Compared to us, they're 100% perfect, right? But compared to God, it's relative perfection. And that's who we are, really. We're spirits. Spirits going through incarnated experience to better ourselves and reach the higher realms. So to reach the position of a pure spirit like Jesus. So basically, we have just one simple mission, very simple, which is called inner transformation. Simple, right? Just have one mission. Inner transformation, right? See how easy it is? It's not we have like 10 tasks to do. It's just one. It's inner transformation, right? Promise that it's not easy, right? And inner transformation, we spoke about inner transformation in January. We had a whole lecture about it. We know that it's made by 3 parts. So the knowledge of the divine laws, know thyself, and action. And there's no inner transformation without those 3 working together. So we need the divine laws, because if I don't know what is the right and wrong, how am I going to be able to look at myself and compare? I need something to compare, right? Otherwise, I may look at myself and say, I'm greedy, but greedy is good because look at everything they gave me. I know nothing about the divine laws. I don't know what's right and wrong. I don't even know that I have more than this life. I thought that I'm here just to have fun and enjoy as much as I want. And when I die, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to rest in peace finally, right, Marcio? And so I'm just, why not, right? So that's why we need the knowledge of the divine laws. So when I'm looking at myself, I have something to compare and say, what do I need to fix here? What's going right and what's going wrong? Because we have things going right as well, right? So that's a good news. But there's few things that we need to look and say, few things. We need to look and say, this couple of things I think I need to change, right? So that's very important for us to have the knowledge of the divine laws. And then we need to know ourselves, which is what we're talking about today. We need to know ourselves because otherwise I make no change. So if I don't ask myself all the time, do I really know myself? Who am I? What kind of actions I do? Where I put my emotions? Is that the way that Jesus would act or not? And I know it's very hard to compare us to Jesus, so because it's so far away, but let's make it easier then, because it's an easier way to compare. The way I'm acting or I'm putting my energy is the way that I would like the other people to act towards me. Would I be happy if someone treated me the same way? Or if they put their emotions related to me in the same way that I'm putting mine towards them? Right? Because if we don't do that, our actions will never change. Right? Because the action is just a mirror of what we have inside. Simple. You change who you are for the good or for the better, your actions change automatically, right? And we need the actions as well, because if I just find out that, I need to change this in me, but I don't do anything to change it, is the theory without the practice. It's like there's no really change, so there's no real inner transformation. And I want to bring a little passage from the book Action and Reaction, which is by far one of my favorite books from the spirit of André Luiz. And sorry, do you mind grabbing some water for me, please? Sorry, I have been with the cold the whole week. I finally got my voice back yesterday, but I'm still not 100%. I apologize. Thank you. So this book, Action and Reaction, André Luiz and Hilario are both walking around with the benefactor Silas. And Silas takes them to see many different cases along the book, and it's very, very interesting book, explaining the laws of action and reaction. And Silas takes them to see a case that he has been following for quite a while now, right? And it's the case of these two spirits that are obsessing their nephew. And basically Sila has been following for a while, and what Sila has been doing is every day he goes there and he visits these spirits, right? So every day he goes there, but he doesn't go there and starts right away say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, try to teach them the laws of love and charity, nothing. He goes there every day, it's as if he knows, if he doesn't really, has no major interest in the story, and he always talks with the spirits and always asks questions to them. Say, hey, how are you doing today? Oh, you good? Oh, yeah. So, what are you doing there? Oh, yeah. And the next day he goes, oh, but why are you doing that? And the spirits and the observers are saying, wow, you know what? So the story basically, let me just go back a little bit. So the story is about Luis. Luis is this incarnated man about his 40s, who's a rich farmer, who inherited all this fortune from his father. But all he doesn't know is that his father was a very, very, very greedy man, and he killed his two brothers to keep all the fortune. Right? So he kills his two brothers keeps all the fortune from the family, passes on to the son, and now the two uncles pretty much wanted their money back. Well, they know they cannot have their money back, but now what they wanted to do is to drive Luis, pretty much to drive him crazy, and they want to make him to discarnate because they want a revenge. They were killed because of the money belongs to them, and they want a revenge. That's what they want. So every day Silas go there and ask them, it's like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, oh, just trying to do this. What are you doing? Oh, because it's our money, it has to pay, someone has to pay, and we're gonna make to pay. And so every day he goes there and asks, like, I say, yeah, well, so how's it going today? It's like, oh, okay. So finally he goes there with Andrea, Luis, and Hilario. And when they get there, there's this very sad scene where Luis now going through the top of his paranoia because the spirits are even putting more ideas on his mind, is literally hugging his money with the paranoia that someone's to steal it from him, right? And the two spirits are there like feeding the thought on him, right? So Sila gets there, of course knows exactly what's happening. He knows what's happening, he knows it's an obsession, he knows how the obsession is happening, everything. But he goes to the spirits and saying, hey, it looks like you guys actually able to reinforce what Luis is thinking, right? So kind of saying like, I don't know what's happening in here, but it looks like that you're helping him. Is that what's happening? And the spiritual, one of the obsessors, which is Leoncio, gives an answer who is a true, perfect lecture in how an obsession happens. And I know at this point you're thinking about, but isn't that about know myself? Like, what are we talking about obsession? We're going to see what I'm going to talk about obsession, even though I'm talking about know thyself. Because the answer that the spirit, and this is amazing because it's coming from an obsessor. It's not coming from an evolved spirit or anything. It's coming from an obsessor. And look what he says when Silas asks him that. He says, yes, we learn in the schools for the Avengers. So he learned in the low realms. He didn't learn from any high spirits. In the low realms, that's where he learned this technique. Sometimes we have the habit of thinking that a low spirit is ignorant. And it's not. There is highly intelligent spirits in the low realms. They just put their intelligence, for now, in the wrong spot. Eventually they put all their intelligence in the right spot. So that's where he learned, right? So when he was there in the low realms, the umbrals, he learned that besides our ordinary immediate desires at every phase of life, we all possess a central desire or basic theme in our innermost interests. So basically what he's saying is, yeah, through the day I have all my desires, my normal desires that we have, and if some of them are desires, some of them are needs, like I need to go to the washroom, I need to eat, I feel like eating right now, I have my desire to go take a shower, so all the things that we know, like routine stuff, right? I have desire to buy a new bag, I have a desire to get a new car, all those things that we normal have. But on top of those whole routine things that we have, we all have a central theme. That's what he's saying. Is there one desire, is there one characteristic of who we are that actually manages all the other desires that we have around, right? And let us say, it's the theme in our innermost interest, because in the end, that's what really guides us. It says, therefore, besides the normal thoughts that bind us to our daily routines, we more frequently emit the thoughts that originate in the central desire that characterizes us. So again, I can go to work, I think about my work. I think about, I have to go to that meeting. I have like the wrong thoughts. So I need to prepare breakfast. I have to take tickets to school. I have all the routine thoughts that we have. But we all have the central theme that kind of comes back through the day. That little breaks that we have in our thoughts from our routines, it comes back to that thought. And then it comes. So for example, just to make it easier, if I'm a drug addict, what do you think is my central theme through the day? When I'm going to get my next fix, right? And don't get it wrong, because when you think about drug addict, you think about the guy on the street. There's a lot of people in the higher positions in companies who are drug addicts, who can keep their jobs functional, usually to a certain point, or sometimes they can, but they spend the whole day thinking when they're going to get their next fix. And a lot of times they'll go and do on the washroom of their own companies, right? It's common. That's his central theme. I need more. I need, when I'm going to get it. Where's my dealer? That's the central theme. But they still can work, they still do their stuff, they go home, they all do their normal routines, right? So for Luis, for example, he still lives his life, has his wife, and I think has kids. He has his farm, he's still running the farm, he does everything. But every single moment, he's thinking about where I can get more, where I can get more money, where I can get more gold, the whole time. So if he's doing business with someone, he's trying to see how can I get the best of this business for me. I don't care if it's honest or dishonest deal, where can I get the best from it? So that's his central theme here for Luis. How can I get more? How can I get more? If I move my fence a little bit and catch a few more meters of my neighbor, he may not even notice, and I can make my farm a little bigger. That's his central theme. But he forgets that he has to eat breakfast? No, he doesn't. He still talks with his wife, he still talks with him, he still goes for work, he still go around to his farm to see how things are going. He's still working. But the central theme, it's there. So that's what the Spirit is saying, right? The central theme is that thing that through the day, you kind of go back. In the middle of all the other thoughts that we have, that thought comes in the middle. So it's very frequent through the day. And they say these thoughts eventually comprise the dominant reflection of our personality. So basically, if we keep feeding that central theme, it eventually will dominate every single aspect of what we do in our lives. So, and that can go either way. What you think was the central theme for Chico Xavier? Charity, probably, the whole day, right? Mother Teresa. So having a central theme is not a bad thing. The problem is what kind of a central theme we have it, right? Because if it's not a really good central theme, if my central theme is pride or vanity or greedy, I probably should not be feeding it, right? But if my central theme is charity, it's love, it's helping other people through the every time that I think, how can I help my neighbor? How can I help my colleague here at work? Keep feeding it. Because eventually it will dominate every single aspect of our personality, right? And that's actually what we're here for, to eventually switch our central theme to love. Because that's the main theme that pure spirits have. Actually, that's the only theme that the pure spirits have. It's love, right? So then he goes ahead and goes, this makes it easy to perceive anyone's nature or any plane just by analyzing their occupations and places of preference. So saying, for me, as an obsessor here, it's very easy to find out someone's central theme. Unfortunately for us here incarnated, it's a little bit harder to look inside and find the central theme. But for the discarnated, they only observe kind of thoughts we carry through the day. What's the main one? What's the one that's always coming back? What are the places that I like to go? What kind of people I like to be around? That's very easy. See, it's very easy for us to find out what's the central theme of someone. Okay? And then he gives some examples. He says, then cruelty is the reflection of the criminal, right? We see certain crimes that we see, how can someone do it? How can someone murder someone, or even a child, or anything like that? It's because, unfortunately, cruelty is their central theme. That doesn't mean that they don't have any good inside of them. We have to remember this, right? We all here, imperfect spirits, we all have good and bad inside of us. But again, there's that one thing that's stronger than the others. Because literally, for you to grab a child that did nothing wrong to you and have the courage to go there and kill a child, you have to have a cruelty as your central theme, right? So that's what he's saying. You see, greedy, the reflection of the miser. Defamation, the reflection of the slanderer. And sarcasm, the reflection of the cynic. And anger, the reflection of the disturbed person, right? So that central theme kind of shapes our personality. It shapes our moral values. It shapes who we are. That's what he's saying. And without the divine laws, to look at the central theme, compare, we won't make any changes. Because if you talk to someone with a miser, which is a stingy person, they won't. And if they have no knowledge of the divine laws, they're not going to see themselves as stingy. They call themselves, I'm cautious, so I'm saving. So I'm only save, and I spend minimum that I can. And I don't help anybody because I can't. I don't have enough. I barely have enough for myself, even though I have tons, right? And in their minds, they're being cautious. That's what they're being. They're savers. They're cautious. They're thinking about tomorrow, right? But then, if they have the knowledge of the divine laws, they probably would easily see that, no, I'm actually being greedy. That's what I'm being. So that's my theme. I'm actually being greedy. I want everything for me, and I want to accumulate more and more and more and more and more, right? But then he says, just as moral elevation is the reflection of the saint. So this is an obsessor who knows all the spectrums from the lower to the high. So he also recognizes that someone who is pure love and charity has a central theme, high moral elements, right? So the central theme of someone that he's calling a saint is someone who carries love and charity as a central theme. So they help everybody around, they think about the others, they're not selfish, they share, so forth. They forgive, they're tolerant, they don't judge. Those are the central themes of what he calls here the saint, right? Or the good person, or the, as we would call, the more evolved spirits, right? And then he goes, once we discovered the reflection of the individual, we wanted to rectify or punish, because as a less evolved spirit, he thinks he has the right to rectify or punish his nephew in this case, which we know we don't have this right, because right here he's judging, and it's not up to us to judge anybody. But he says that once we find out what's the central theme of someone, it's very simple to overwhelm the person with unseasoned stimuli, reinforcing, I'm going to go back on this word, reinforcing, not creating, not planting, not seeding, reinforcing the impulses and images already in his mind, and creating new ones to superimpose over the old ones, thereby continuously feeding his mental fixation. So then again, he's not creating anything. They didn't make Luis greedy. Luis was already greedy. That was already his central thing, because unfortunately he not only inherited all the money from his father, but he also, probably because was created by the father, educated by the father, and maybe by his own central themes that he had brought from other incarnations, he already had the greed as a central theme. So what these obsessors had to do, they said it's easy, simple. I just had to come here, we looked, oh yeah, just like the father. Great, easy, he's greedy, central theme. Let's start to just giving some ideas. Hey, someone's going to steal your gold. Hey, you need more. You don't have it enough. So now the whole time, and then Luis is coming up with his own ideas, right? Oh yeah, I don't have enough. I need more. How can I get more? People are jealous of me. I think they want my gold. So now they're creating this paranoia on him, and that's exactly what they wanted. They want to drive him crazy, and then eventually they want to drive him to discarnation, right? But they didn't create the central theme. They didn't make Luis greedy. They just reinforced what was already there, because that was who Luis was. A greedy person. That was his central theme. That's what moved him on every single aspect of his life, was the greed. How can I get more and more and more? Right? And then the Spirit keeps going. He said, using such process, we can easily create and maintain his psychic delirium or obsession, which is nothing more than an abnormal state of mind that's dominated by the excess of his own creations pressing on his sensorial field. So they're not doing anything more than just reinforcing what Luis has, and saying it's very simple. Very, very simple. He said this can be infinitely added by the direct or indirect influence of other incarnate or discarnate minds that are attracted by their own reflections. So now he had something here, because we always think obsession as something, the discarnate spirit comes and influences us and make me do all the things that I otherwise would never do, because that's not me. That's how we think, right? That's not me. It has to be an obsessor, because it's not me. That is not me. So it has to be an obsessor. I have to go to the Spiritist Center. I have to go to this obsession session to take it away, because it's not me. Well, guess what? It is us. Because even if you have an obsessor, he just feeding our central theme. Right? So he's either feeding my jealousy, feeding my greedy, my vanity, my pride, whatever it is, but he only feeds what he already found. And most of the time, what they feed is the central theme, right? They find the one thing that say, oh, this is so strong that I just need a little push, and I'm in, right? And he's adding something else here, saying, and from the discarnated as well, from the incarnated as well. Because if, for example, Luis is this farmer who probably used to do very dishonest deals because he just wanted more and more and more. So guess what kind of people he surrounds him with? Probably other dishonest business people at the time. That's what he wants. That's his interest. And those people, so incarnated, start to feed each other, right? If I'm a drug addicted, I most of my friends that will be drug addicted, because then we feed each other. Hey, I got a new dealer. Someone has a better price there. Hey, we feed each other, right? So the influence, it's not only from the discarnated, it's from the incarnated. Our central theme will attract also the incarnated around us. They think alike. That's how we do, right? If you look at your friends, not that our friends think exactly the same, but in general, you have to have the same moral values and, more or less the same beliefs, even though I have friends with different religions, but we all at least are Christians, and we have the same, or even not that we are all Christians, but we all have the same belief in the goodness. That's what it is. So we have to have something that bounds us, right? Otherwise, it doesn't connect. And that's why the Spirit was saying before there, they say, just by seeing who you are with and the place they like to go, I know what's your central theme. Because that's what we attract, right? And then he finishes with just this phrase saying, everyone is tempted on the outside by the temptation that they feed on the inside. So when you think, for example, about Louis' father, the temptation was not the fortune of the family, because we think, money can be very tempting. If I don't have greedy as my central theme, most likely that all the money from the family would not attract me. I was like, yeah, my family is rich, yeah, when dies, we're gonna share in 3 brothers here, and then that's fine. But the money became a temptation to Louis' father, and it is now to Louis, because they have the central theme as a greed. But worse than having the central theme as a greed, they feed it. They're feeding it. Because even if I have it and I recognize, I'm very greedy, I can control it once I'm conscious. So once I'm conscious that that's actually what's really moving me, and once I have the knowledge of the divine law, so it's like, I really want it, but that's not the right thing to do, so I'm going to hold myself, right? Because that's what his father could have done. Like, I really wish I could kill those 2 guys and stay with the whole fortune, but it's the wrong thing to do, so I'm not going to do it. I would love to, but so he could have held that feeling of I want everything. He didn't, because probably he was ignorant of the divine laws. He didn't understand what we understand today, that that's not the only life, that there was more to come, that there was more before and there's way more after, right? So he thought, I want to now, right? So that's exactly what the Spirit is saying here. It's not the outside that tempts us, inside is the opposite. It's what we carry inside and what we're feeding inside that creates the temptation outside. It's what makes me be jealous of someone, or I'm jealous of everything that this person has, or be greedy, or my vanity, or anything else. It's inside out and on the other way. By the end of this lecture, André Luiz and Hilario Jaws were just on the floor. They could not believe that they had heard such a perfect lecture on know thyself, and in this case about obsession, from an obsessor, right? Because they were just students, so Silas was like, saw this as a perfectly natural situation, right? Because Silas knew that being from the lower realms does not necessarily mean you're ignorant. But André Luiz and Hilario was like, I can't believe we heard like this perfect lecture from an obsessor, right? So an obsessor helping us here. See, fantastic opportunity to help not only André Luiz and Hilario at the time, but now it's helping us, right? And that's exactly what the answer that Silas gives to the Spirit. Say, there was a perfect lecture about an obsession. Right? So once we have this knowledge of the divine laws, now it's time for us to start looking inside ourselves and see what we can change, what needs to be changed, what's really inside of us, right? Is that easy? Because that's who we are. We are immortal spirits that have been created by God to reach perfection or relative perfection. That's who we are in the end. That's what we're here for. That's the plan. That's the master plan created by God. But we only do that through inner transformation, where we have to have those 3 aspects together: the divine laws, know thyself, and then the action comes automatically. Because if we know ourselves, if we find our central theme, if we find what moves us, and if it's good, let's feed it. But if it's not, let's hold it. Let's not feed it, at least for now, and then eventually that theme is gonna get weak and weak, and we'll replace for a better theme inside of ourselves. Is that easy or simple plan inner transformation? No, it's not. The good news is, remember how it took millions of years for us to get where we are right now in terms of organic evolution and spiritual evolution? We have the infinity after, right? That doesn't mean let's take our time. Oh, yeah, I'll do it in the next incarnation. That doesn't mean that, but just means there is no jumps in nature. Nobody's expecting us to go from today to the day of our incarnation, become saints, become like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or Shikshara. No, nobody's asking that, but just a little bit. Because at this point, if at the end of this incarnation, I didn't change my theme from my pride to charity, but at least I held my pride as like, oh, no, you're not going to come out that often anymore. Amazing. Amazing job. Because then on the next, that theme is going to be weaker. And through the time, it's going to get weaker and we slowly change for better themes. But then again, it's not easy. And in fact, because it's not easy, on the Spirit's book, question 919 and 919a, that's exactly what Kardec asks to the Spirit of St. Augustine. So basically, Kardec asks to St. Augustine and say, you know what? So now I understand that we're here to better ourselves, to do our inner transformation, but how can we do that? Right? And St. Augustine gives a very simple, plain answer. He says, as the ancients had told you, know thyself. And then that's why Kardec goes to the question 919a. He goes, I understand the maxim, I understand the idea, but let's be real here. Like, it's still not easy. Like, how? I understand what has to be done, but how do we do that? Sorry. And St. Augustine, what he does, he gives his own recipe. He says, well, when I was incarnated, what I used to do is at the end of each day, I would look back to my day. I don't want to spend many hours on it. He would spend like half an hour in there. And he said, I would analyze my day. And I will go from the moment I wake up. Okay, I woke up, and what did I do? I had breakfast, and okay, then I went to work, and he would analyze the whole day, and he would think, what did I do that was right? What did I do that was wrong? In terms of actions, thoughts, because action is very easy to analyze. Thoughts, different idea. Thoughts, what are the things that I did that I could have done better? He would put himself on someone else's shoes and say, okay, if someone had done that to me that I did today to that guy, would I like? No, I wouldn't. So that I have to change tomorrow. No, actually, no. If someone had treated me the way I treated that guy, I would be fine. Okay, I would actually like to be treated like, okay, so that I'll keep. What was the good that I could have done and I didn't? Because that's a problem as well. Maybe I had the opportunity to help someone. I had the time, I have the means, and I just said no. So a good that was put in my way, an opportunity of doing good that was put in my way, and I didn't do it. So you would do every single day. At the end of the day, he said I would go and I would analyze myself. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What do I need to do a little bit better next day? And then he goes. And if we do that, if not every day, but once in a while at least, we're probably going to be pretty close to find our central theme. Because then you're going to see the recurrent. Oh, I did that again. Oh, I did that again today. Oh, and today again. Oh, I did that 3 times today. And there are 4 times today. We start to find ourselves. What kind of actions, what kind of thoughts. We did it. So that was this little recipe from St. Augustine, that it's fairly simple. I don't think it's easy to do, analyze ourselves in an honest way, but it's a simple. And we can start slowly. Like I said, if you don't want to do every day, at least once in a while, we need to stop and think who we are, to look at inside ourselves and really honestly think, who am I? What kind of person I am? what really moves me? What's that one thing that really, in the end, if I really analyze, all my actions are moved by that one thing. So today, I start this lecture with 2 questions. I'm going to leave you guys with another one. What's my central theme? So a question for all, maybe once in a while. Think about, find it, and change it. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. We have a few minutes for questions. Anybody wants to volunteer?
Oh, I have a comment, actually. Very, very good lecture, Teresa. Thank you very much. And there's just a thought that came to my head that I'd like to share while Teresa put in a very clear and nice way about our actions will reflect a lot of who we are. But one thing that I've realized, at least in my life, my experience, like probably not too long ago, is that when we have some feelings and thoughts that we can't always control our feelings and our thoughts, right? It's a long process, as Teresa mentioned. There is the discovery that there is some time between thinking, feeling, and acting. It's something that it's really powerful to us. Because it's not because I feel something, if I am angry, or if I'm greedy, or if I have something I haven't really worked on and I still have those feelings and those impulses to act on, there is some time. It can be 1 second that you need to react, or it can be 1 day, hours, whatever. And this is really, I think this is really liberating to ourselves, because it makes us actually be able to know that we always have a choice on how we act. And this is something very, very powerful, because if we first control our actions, then I think this is a great step, at least in my case, and I still work on that every day. But it's a great thing not to act on the impulse, and having that knowledge, right? It's just something that I had to share that I think is
and that's perfect, because even that space between I thought and I do, it's an exercise as well, because we can be impulsive, right? And then stop being impulsive becomes your exercise, because before I would sit in the office and as soon as I would send that nasty email back and send it, right? Now I'm going to practice and say, you know what? I'm going to write the email so I can vent, and I'm going to sit in there for a day. If next day still feel the same, then I'll press send. Most likely, I can guarantee to you a day after, 99% of the time, you're not going to press that send. It's like, delete. This is very unprofessional, right? But there's an exercise as well. But the exercise only comes with awareness. Because if I'm not aware that what's my impulsiveness creating on the other people, because imagine the other person will receive the emails, right? If I'm not aware that that's actually rude, that it's not professional, that it actually may offend people, that I actually have, that it's not okay to act on my impulse or act with impulse, then I won't change that. So even that becomes an exercise. And you're right, because then when we start to learn that I have choices, that I can actually breathe deep and think twice, is that the right thing to do or not? It's a great thing to do. Even if I wish I could send this email, I'm not going to. It's already an improvement for sure. But even that time between thinking and responding is an exercise itself as well. That only comes with the awareness.
Everybody's nodding. Can you open your mouth and ask a question? I'll ask a question.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Saint Augustine.
Yeah.
Saint Augustine, we talk about that recommendation to do a balance at the end of every night. So about what you did right and what you could have done better. Mm-hmm. Personally, what I find is that we have this terrible tendencies to grandiose the good things we do and try to rationalize the not so good things we do. So are we good judges of ourselves?
I think there's two aspects. Either what you said, right? Because for me, I have an explanation, right? I always have an explanation why I act in the way that I act, because you actually really make me angry. So it's your fault, right?
That's correct. Somebody else's fault.
Someone's fault. You really made me angry, and I had no choice. I had to react to the way that I react. So we have this option. We have this thing that for us, we always justify. We always find a justification why I act the way that I act. But the other people, they just acted because you're rude, period, right? We have this tendency. We also can go in the other way. Some people can be very harsh on themselves and not even see the good side. So it can go in the other way. But I agree with you, and that's why it's a simple recipe, but not easy to do. Because a lot of times we're not quite honest with ourselves. That's why I think it's an exercise. You started. And you keep doing it, and hopefully we get better doing that. I think one of the best ways to do it is, or to help for us to do a little bit of better judge, is get out of my spot and put myself on the other person's spot. Because if I only analyze from my side, what did I do to that person? Oh yeah, I said to them this and this and this. Oh, but you know what? Yeah, it probably wasn't that great. I shouldn't. But the only reason I did was because this and this and this. So I justify myself. But if I, in my mind, change positions, now I'm on the other side and I hear the same things from that I told myself, would I like someone to tell those things to myself? Then it's a different way of analyzing, because we're trying to analyze from our point of view. So maybe when doing that analysis, let's try to make the analysis on the point of view of the other people receiving what we did to them, right? So it may help a little, but I think it's an exercise that it takes time for us to get used, like get good at it, right?
And it was kind of a leading question, as usual, because, as human beings, we are social animals for a reason. We can't find all the answers by ourselves. So even though someone might look at St. Augustine and says, okay, I can do this on my own, you can't. You need the support of relatives, family, friends, the TSS groups where you can listen to other people. Listen to their struggles, listen to even to their fallacies, to their own way of rationalizing, and say, well, that person's kind of rationalized. I don't agree with them. And often you realize that you use the same arguments to justify your acts.
Yes.
So don't ever think that in this journey of self-knowledge that you're by yourself, because you will not succeed as well. If you can trust other people, and if you can collaborate and you can share experience and doubts, I think that's the kind of the greatest reality that we face as we become adults. Because as children, we think that the adults have all the answers. And as we become adults, we continue to be children because we have many, many more doubts in every step of our lives. So thank you very much. So thank you. I think we're ready to start for our passes. I thank everyone who's been watching us live. Please join us every week. We also have Wednesdays and Thursdays live broadcasts through Facebook Live and Fab TV. Thank you very much. And I'll ask now for us to prepare for the passes. Thank you, Teresa.